Okay, so there's a story I want to tell. It's about the time when me and my brother tried to steal a trampoline. And I, I feel like this needs a little bit of clarification. This is one of those giant trampolines. We're trying to pull this trampoline behind a tree out of sight from the owners so we could jump on it for a little while. That was the plan anyway. The plan was not actually to steal this trampoline. Me and my brother were just a couple of Lakota kids, some wild Oglalas who had just moved from the reservation to this border town. Nobody ever told us it was okay to just go ask. There's always this assumption of, in our experience, there was always an assumption of guilt. We had the cops called on us before for just being in certain parts of town, not doing anything in particular. So that's why we hatched up this plan. They're not gonna see us. We can jump on it for a little while and go home. And we start dragging it so far. And then the owners come running out or shouting at us, yelling at us. So we run off, and 30 minutes later, the chief of police shows up at the door. I'm the one who answers it, just this little Lakota kid. Or he doesn't ask what we were doing or why we were doing it or anything like that. He just proceeds to give me a lecture. He told me to look him in the eye because I kept looking away. He started his lecture. He was like, something to the effect like, you know what you did was wrong, right? Now I want you to say it. Look me in the eye. Hey, don't look away. Hey, look me in the eye. Look me in the eye. Now I want you to say it. I still think about that sometimes. And it really gets me thinking about eye contact in general. Because eye contact is something that I've always struggled with. Eye contact means something different to so many peoples, so many cultures. I think that was just one of many ways that people think about eye contact. So for the chief of police, his understanding was that if you are not making constant eye contact the whole time, then that means that you are being dishonest. But that is not so for Lakota people and probably a lot of other native people as well. If someone from another culture was to see that people aren't feeling obligated to make constant eye contact, then they might think Lakota people don't like eye contact. That's not true. Or they might think it's a bad thing culturally to make eye contact. That's also not true. I don't think it's a rule of avoidance. I think it's more so just acknowledging the power of what eye contact is. You acknowledge that it has both the potential for something harmful or something helpful. With eye contact, there really is a potential there to impart the emotion from one person into another. If you can think back to a time when somebody looked upon you in a loving, warm way, you can probably remember feeling nourished by it. And in the same way, you could probably think back to a time when somebody had a lot of anger inside of them, a lot of frustration. And they looked towards you that way to release that anger towards you, and you felt it, you received it. It has both of those potentials. And there's a lot of talk about your eyes being the window to your soul, and I think there's a reason for that. And I think it's important to think about that in terms of windows too, because you're opening that window. You're opening a window in order to give what's within yourself. But you also open up a window to receive emotion from who you're sharing eye contact with. And it is entirely possible for somebody to open up that window to give, but not open up that window to receive. So I think that's what happened with the chief of police. I think he wanted to kind of force the eye contact to happen, but I don't think he had his own window open to be receptive to the emotion he was seeing on my face, because if he did, he would have saw that I was scared, he would have saw that I was sad, and just that alone, just seeing that alone, it might have made him wonder why. It might have made him think, why did this happen? it almost opens you up to that person's world that you're looking at. What is the reason for this little Lakota kid to go and try to pull this trampoline behind this tree or whatever he was doing? Why didn't this little Lakota kid, these two little Lakota kids, why were they afraid to just go knock on the door and ask to jump on that trampoline? Where does that stem from? What is that fear? Why? And if you really looked into it, there's always a bigger picture, you know? There's this whole bigger picture about generational trauma. There's this whole bigger picture about historical violence that happened in this very community, this border town right by the reservation. There was a time when, as a Lakota, you could have been shot just for leaving the reservation. So there's a feeling like, a residual feeling like it's illegal just to be there. And there's a lasting feeling that, you know, my family felt like always being suspected, being followed in stores, all that kind of thing. So it's just always the assumption. It's always the assumption that, no, you can't do that. You can't just go ask, like, and maybe it's not true. Maybe they would have been, yeah, sure, you know, come jump. You know, it's possible. But there's a reason behind everything. The reason why anybody is the way they are. And it's almost as if you open yourself to that possibility through your eye contact. Once you receive that emotion, then you can't help but feel it. You can't help but become curious about it. So I think there was even a reason for the chief of police to see things the way that he's seen things. If that experience was frightening for me, if that experience was painful for me of being forced to make eye contact, then I think that's something that he went through as well when he was a child. I think that capacity to do something to someone else always comes from having had it done to you. Maybe his parents, instead of trying to understand him, just met him with cold authority. Do this. Not try to help him understand why something's wrong or understand what he was feeling or why he did it to begin with. Just cold authority. You gotta do it this way. You know, do as I say. Look into my eyes. Receive this frustration and carry on the way that I felt. When I look back, I'm not really frustrated at him. I don't really feel bitterness or anger towards him. The more I'm willing to try and understand, like there's a bigger picture to it, then the less it hurts me. This shows me that power of eye contact. I've seen what it can do. I've felt what it can do in a harmful way. It also makes me acknowledge what it can do in a loving way. How it can really uplift somebody to receive that nourishment from others. My default go-to for any type of interaction was to avert my eyes. I didn't want people to see the emotion that was going on inside of me. And I was afraid to receive the emotion of others. So that's how it's been for me. Trying to learn how to do both more. If you have unresolved pains and issues inside, then you know that has everything to do with how much eye contact you're willing to give and the emotions you're willing to receive from others. So if you come across a Lakota person who's, using less eye contact, then I just don't want people to assume that that means that they're dishonest or they have bad intentions. Eye contact is just powerful. Whether people choose to do less of it or they came to understand it as something they could use in a really good, powerful way. However they may choose to do it, it's just important to learn about the power, one of the many windows that we have as human beings. It's a beautiful window. Wopilai chichapala.